Did you know that there is actually a law in place when it comes to lead in paint? It's called the Lead Contamination Control Act of 1988. It was enacted to help eliminate childhood lead poisoning throughout the country.
Yeah, and despite it being created more than 17 years ago, lead poisoning is still affecting children today. And if you or a loved one live in an older home, you want to pay attention now before you paint, renovate, or strip anything wood within your home. We learn why in today's Angie's List report.
More than 40 million houses in the United States have lead paint. And it's really important if you have small children to be very careful when remodeling because you do not want to end up with lead paint poisoning.
Especially for children under 6 years old. Ingesting lead paint chips or breathing in lead dust can lead to lifelong learning disabilities, nervous system problems, or even brain damage. Just a little dust can do a lot of damage.
If you took this much lead dust and you spread it over a 1,500 square foot home, that house would be contaminated.
In order to remove it, Angie suggests finding a contractor who is certified by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in safe lead practices and ask specific questions on the removal process.
A good contractor will list all of the things that they do because they're proud of the fact that that's part of their business.
We've been working with the EPA, educating consumers on the dangers of lead paint and the proper procedures for dealing with it. And we've seen lots of progress from contractors, but there still are painters that aren't following the proper procedures, so it's important that consumers educate themselves and are in the driver's seat.
Sauer says it's imperative your painter or remodeler uses plastic drop cloths, not canvas, and a HEPA vacuum for cleanup. And while the paint may be the main culprit, it's not the only one.
We think of lead-based paint as the colored paints on the walls, but that's not true. It's also the lacquers, the varnishes, the shellacs, the floor cover coatings. Those all have lead in them as well.
And according to the EPA's Renovation, Repair, and Painting Rule of 2010, it's illegal for any contractor to disturb lead paint without first acquiring lead-safe certification. You can find a national list of certified contractors on our website, WBOC.com. Click on our picture at the top of the page.
Now, if you do live in a home built decades ago, you might be thinking if the original paint did have lead in it, how harmful can that be because you painted over it several times? Well, guess what? Turns out over time that paint can still be exposed and can chip off. At 2 years old, Antonio was diagnosed with hearing loss. The culprit, peeling chipped paint. A year before, Antonio's father found him eating paint chips at their old apartment. Antonio was tested, diagnosed with hearing loss because of lead-based paint.
You are there to protect your child, but here it is. You let something slip through the hurt in you because you sin your Lord have mercy, thank you, Jesus. It hurts you to see your child in this condition.
Nathaniel and Antonio were given a new apartment to live in until their old unit was completely remodeled, making it lead-free. Even a lead tester couldn't detect any lead-based paint afterwards. Now, along with older homes and buildings, the EPA says that lead can be found in soil and yards, playgrounds, even drinking water.
So how can you know whether to have your home's water tested? Well, the EPA says you can tell if your home has lead pipes if the pipes are a dull gray metal that is soft enough to scratch with a key, or if your non-plastic plumbing was installed before 1986.
Now, you can buy lead testing kits in home improvement stores to collect samples and then send them off to a certified lab for analysis. You may also want to ask your water supplier whether the line connecting your home to the water main is made of lead.
So what can you do if your home does test positive for lead? Well, the EPA says you can flush your pipes before drinking. Just turn on the cold water and run it until it becomes cold, especially if that faucet hasn't been used for 6 hours or longer. And when it comes to drinking or cooking, only use cold water. You can also replace the lead-containing plumbing fixtures and consider an alternative source or treatment of water.
Okay, so from drinking to eating, you may recall last year we talked about lead in rice. Certain rices brought in from Asia, Europe, and South America showed up to 60 times higher in lead levels than the allowable level for young children. The study, done back in 2013, found that rice imported from Taiwan and China had the highest levels, while samples from the Czech Republic, Italy, India, and Thailand were lower, but also caused a second look.
Now, you can't talk about lead without questioning some of the items used this time of year. According to a 2008 study in the Journal of Science, of the total environment, 95 seasonal or holiday products, many of which had a Halloween or Easter theme, 12 of the products were found to contain levels of lead that were higher than U.S. regulatory limit.
So why mention all of these things, even if the risk in some cases is minimal? Because even consuming small amounts of lead can be dangerous.
And according to the National Institutes of Health, along with hearing loss, as we mentioned, exposure to lead can also cause behavioral issues or attention problems in children, possibly failure in school or even a reduced IQ. Now, some children can even experience kidney damage at a young age.
Many have reported stunted growth. Young children can also suffer from anemia, have difficulty sleeping, and experience reduced sensations or motor skills. Now, to determine if your child has lead poisoning, all you have to do is have your child's lead level checked. Ask your pediatrician to do a simple blood test.
And remember, it is preventable. Well, something else that can be a danger to our loved ones, a baby monitor?
Wake up, little boy, daddy's coming for you.
Yeah, up next, one family's horrific story of what they heard coming from their child's room. That was only the beginning of what sent the parents into a panic. It's a story every parent has to hear.
Well, the World Wide Web can be as scary. Unfortunately, many teenagers don't know the dangers. We're going to hear how Google is taking a proactive step to protect our young ones' personal information and what parents need to do to get on board.
And you can get on board when it comes to fighting crime on Delmarva. We'll have a new batch of fugitives as part of our Most Wanted Monday a little later. But first, we talked about protecting our kid from lead dangers. Dr. Oz has another tip to keep your little ones healthy.
Hi, I'm Dr. Oz. Well-child visits are an important part of your baby's first 2 years. During visits, the pediatrician will check for growth and development and record height and weight. Certain tests like vision and hearing will also be part of the checkup. Mom and dad should attend the first visits to get to know your doctor and ask questions.